Good morning, Zenny Abraham, Zenny 62 Media. How are you? Hello?
Sorry, I had the mute on. Sorry.
Oh, that's quite all right. Zenny Abraham, Zenny 62 Media. How are you doing? I have a question. And whenever you're ready. Good morning.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Sure. Zenny Abraham, Zenny 62 Media. I have a question whenever you're ready regarding article, the Prime Group proposal number 15. I can give you a chance to get set up there. The question only had to do with the disqualification of a player and the use of the review. That actually applies to such that you could change the disqualification of a player. Would that, in other words, if they were disqualified, you could reverse that? Hello. Sounded like Brian. Good morning.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Mike Signora at the league office in New York. We are going to begin this call momentarily. I would just ask you to please mute your lines right now. If you can mute your lines, we are going to begin. I'm just going to go over some logistical information, and then we will have Troy Vincent and Rich McKay available to take your questions. We just ask that when you do, the line will be open, then anyone can ask questions, of course. And we just ask you to identify yourself when you ask your question of Rich and Troy. So just to begin, so the annual meeting will begin Sunday, March 24th, at the Arizona Biltmore in Phoenix. We have a media workroom set up again in the MacArthur Ballroom, rooms 6 and 7 in the Biltmore. And that'll open on Sunday, March 24th at noon. And of course, we'll have Wi-Fi service available there in the media workroom. There will be an NFL reception on Monday night, which you're all invited to. That will begin at 7 p.m. on the Squaw Peak Lawn in Biltmore. The head coach's media breakfast is going to take place on Tuesday, March 26th at 8:15 a.m. That's MacArthur Ballroom 1 through 4. There's only one media breakfast session, and it will feature all clubs, all head coaches at one time slot. So Tuesday, March 26th at 8:15. We are no longer dividing the coaches by conference and by day. All the coaches that took part will be there Tuesday morning, March 26th at 8:15 in the Parker Ballroom 1 through 4. And then various press briefings will take place in the MacArthur Ballroom 5 throughout the annual meeting. We anticipate the competition committee news conference will be held Tuesday at approximately noon on Tuesday the 26th. And then Commissioner Goodell would host a press conference at the conclusion of the meeting. When you arrive to pick up your media credentials, that is done outside the MacArthur Ballroom at the Biltmore, and pickup begins on Sunday the 24th at noon, and then continues on Monday and Tuesday mornings, 8 a.m. Monday morning beginning, and Tuesday morning beginning at 7:30 a.m., and then Wednesday morning we'll have staff there as well at 7:30 a.m. So with that, I will now turn it over to Troy Vincent, the NFL Executive Vice President of Football Operations. Troy?
Thanks, Sid. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
I'll just begin with kind of where the competition committee started, just the off-season journey, beginning a week after Super Bowl, where we met in New York, and just quickly go through that meeting, day and a half, 2 days, where we just began looking at the 2018 season in its entirety, really focusing on all of the data and all the analytics around the game. We reviewed the coaches and head coaches, general managers, their survey results. We began reviewing video on use of helmet, unnecessary roughness, blindside block, and we began our discussion around replay. That took place in New York. I think it was 11th to the 12th to 13th of February. Then we go to Indy. Very similar process. We're there a week. This is where we got in-depth medical presentation from our health and safety committee and engineers at BioCorp. We began again reviewing additional video around use of helmet, roughness, pass, kickoff, force collars, covered all special teams, in particular, leveraging leaders, blindside block again. We began talking about runners giving themselves up. This is when we got an in-depth replay discussion. We began talking about the eighth official. Some refer to it as a side judge. Got an in-depth conversation there. Began talking about officiating mechanics. What can we do more there from the development of officials, in particular full-time game officials. There we were joined in by, I think we had Jerome Berger, referee, John Perry, ref, Bain, line judge, and then Terrence Miles, who's the back judge, joined us the entire week. Also, we met one day, we had a 2-day, 2.5-hour discussion with the Players Association around these same similar topics. Met with the GMAC head coaching subcommittee, doing injury data and replay, use of helmet, blindside block. And then that took us to last week in Arizona, where we began on Saturday, wrapped up on Wednesday. Blindside block again, use of helmet, in-depth conversation around replay. Talked about universal rules alignment, where we discussed high school, college rules, where we can continue to align. And then lastly, the priority going into the offseason up until this point from the committee was to continue analyzing and educating around use of helmet. Continue to examine and analyze the rules we'll discuss today, styles around replay. The universal rules, safety rules alignment, the top priority. Integration around better performing helmets is a priority, and working with our health and safety committee. Take the game. There's still areas of dead time that we can remove from the game. Dead time. Discuss eight officials, and then better ways that we can educate our players around best way to play the game. Pocket, stand, tackling. So that was kind of the priority, kind of going up to this point. That leads us to some of our playing rule proposals that the committee is recommending that we saw from the club. I think, Rich, was that properly represented? I passed your February up until last week.
I think it does. Yes, it was well done, Troy. Yes, that's where we are now. So if you want, I'll give you a little bit about 2018. Look back on 2018. It was a good year on the first measuring stick for us, which is always competitive balance. How are we doing as a league between all the rules that we have, both on the field and our personal rules, to make sure we're competitively balanced in the game. And for the 29th season in a row, we had 4 new teams make the playoffs. In fact, this year we had 7. We had the second consecutive season in which 2 teams went worst to first in their division. No other league's ever done that. No other major league sports league has done that. Production-wise, most production, it was most TDs in the history of the NFL. Top 4 scoring teams all made it to the conference championship, but what we like is 7 out of the 12 playoff teams were also in the top 10 of the fewest points allowed, so it was good balance. So there were just a lot of, good things that went on. We look back at what we did in 2018 as a membership. Membership changed the catch-no-catch rule. We had 35% fewer reviews this year in instant replay. We instituted the use of helmet. We're happy with concussions went down by 25%. It's something we'll continue to try to work on and improve in. But it was certainly a good step. And the helmets was certainly played a part in that. As we get better equipment and we get better rules, we'll get better in the safety area. We changed our kickoff rule and had a 35% reduction in concussions on kickoff. So it was a from what was instituted last year by the membership and what we're able to achieve this year. And I think lastly, Troy talked about game time. Game time matters to us, and this year we're down to 304.27. And that's down from 308.18 in 2015. So that's 4 minutes. And to Troy's point, that's not 4 minutes of plays lost. That's 4 minutes of dead time cut out, which is what our fans tell us over and over again. They want to see less of with dead time. So we feel good about where the game was. It's a good year 2018 for sure.
Thanks very much, Rich and Troy. With that, we're set to take questions. So if you'd like questions, please just state your name, and if you're not speaking, please speak the line. Phones now open.
Yeah. So,
I can handle that once. Well, yes, on the blind side block, we have a rule proposal on that. We met with the NCAA, and they now have a rule proposal themselves this year. I would say theirs is going to be very close to ours in language, and I think our enforcement will be very close. Otherwise, ours will be all through the field. Yours uses the word attacking. Use that word. Otherwise, I think our rules are going to be very, very simple.
Zinni Abraham.
Hey, this is Angelo with Visit Sports Talk. You were starting to discuss an eighth official. We were just wondering, what would that eighth official role would be on the field? Would be in the booth? Can you explain that a little bit more? So two discussions on eighth official. One is a discussion we had for a number of years on placing eighth official on the field and where that person would stand or what areas of coverage they would have. We experimented with that in a couple preseasons that we again this year. Whether that's in the back, whether that's in the open fire position, whether that's just sideline touch. We want to continue to look at that. I think there's a number of us who think that the eighth official at some point will come onto the field. We figure out where to place that eighth official and why we know we're going to get better from that place with the eighth official. The other discussion is different. That's an official that would be in the box. He would have the right to potentially throw a flag and call penalties. That discussion, I would say that had no support from any member of ours. We went through a lot of what we thought the benefits should be and then what the downside would be, and then came to the conclusion that we did, the eight of us, did not do that good.
Zinni.
I'll answer that question. I would say I hope not, but last year what happened was when we got to the meetings and when membership comes together, we start analyzing, start talking, there may be something. There's always something that membership believes that we should work, we should be moving in a certain direction for the betterment of the game. That's always a possibility. That's why we take things to the floor, we discuss, and membership always has that ability to put something forward that the other club should institute.
Yeah,
Troy, from the Washington Post. What's your sense of whether the committee's replay proposal or any replay proposal can get 24 votes, and what do you attribute the reluctance of the committee to add non-calls to that, especially when it comes to pass meetings?
Well, you saw in all of our discussions from beginning in New York to Indy and then last week in Arizona and then conversations in between, there's been a real reluctance of putting a foul on the field. That is something that from the active players, the coaches, all across football personnel, there's been a real reluctance. As a committee, committee was examining, as we looked at some of the other playing rule proposals that were submitted, is to say, where do you start? How do you garner? What process? What proposal? What can you put on the floor that may garner 24 votes? But you still have to get 24 votes to pass. So, as the committee analyzed, looked, hours and hours of discussion, what was put forward were two options that at least gives a minimum baseline of at least capturing what data says are the two most impactful plays without putting a flag on the field.
Hey, this is Ron Clemens. How close are you guys watching the AAF and their rules? I know Denver has a rule proposal change in place this year that's kind of based on an AAF rules. Well, the Denver proposal really kind of goes to the Greg Schiano 10 years ago, the 4th and 15 conference I think the AAF does have. But yeah, we'll look at that. We'll look at the CFL, we'll look at college football, and we'll talk to all of them. But I think we also have to pay attention to our game and the way our game is played, and listen to our players and our coaches, and make sure that we're paying attention to them as we begin to draft.
Angelo Romeo again. You said that there was a 35% reduction on kickoff concussion. Can you give us, if there is any reduction on other types of plays for concussion?
Yeah, the overall rate for the entire league, I believe, is 25%. For such year-over-year number of concussions in 2017 versus 2018.
What changes if he does something to the overtime or coaching? I know there's a proposal out there. So if he does and he's determined about the coaching overtime.
We discussed it at length, and Kansas City got a proposal on the table, and we'll see if how that proposal fares as far as getting the votes. We've had a lot of discussion about the overtime procedures over the years, and it's all been a good one written by data, and it'll be interesting to see both of them where it's coming from. Big picture,
Well, there was discussion. Obviously, the proposal that was put forth was the only written proposal, but there were a few other clubs that actually threw it out there, and we have one that we'll see how membership feels about it when we take it to the floor for vote. But data tells us since 2001, 80% of the time, both teams touch the ball. And just putting on my old cap, you got to play deep. You got to stop the offense and the offense get on the field. You got to score. There's something about that, not just tradition, but you got to play ball. And typically when people raise it, because they fell short on the other end. They didn't, the team won the toss and took the ball downfield, which happened, maybe 20% of the time. Other than that, you got to play ball.
John Chris, final shot.
Free press, the resolution proposal by the Eagles that was put on to have the Lions and Cowboys go on the road every other Thanksgiving. What was the genesis of that rule and the reason for withdrawal, if you know it?
I don't know the genesis of their. It's not. They're not the first team to discuss that. We looked at the defensive aspect of it, and there's nothing that indicates an advanced team that we can see by either the New Orleans Cowboys as they actually have a full pitching percentage that Thursday game that they do on us home game. But you'd have to ask the Eagles as well as their proposal.
Zenny Abraham, Zenny 62 Media. Quick question about the resolution proposal G1, amending the anti-tampering policy. Is this installed to combat social media reports regarding vested veterans in in clubs?
Last year, the G1 I'll try to find it myself. The G1 is a continuation of what we had last year. Last year, we had that policy in place because we had a number of people that were listed as going to be terminated, and then clubs contacted us, and then you got into the Amherst. So that's what put this procedure forward and tried it 1 year. I think it worked very well. I think the clubs liked it, and that's why we're trying to propose it this year.
Thank you. Thank you.
But given the push forward by many coaches to have a site that are wide play entirely, and given the pushback from officials, are these replay proposals submitted by the committee? Are they compromises that signify sharply divided views within the committee and within the league at this juncture? Because they sure feel like this.
Well, let me say, John, first of all, let's play. I myself have been around replay and replay discussions for a long time, and they are always sharply divided because people have very passionate views on replay and how replay impacts the game. I don't think that that's what's reflected in our proposals, 6 and 6A. What we wanted to do was get proposals that we worked on a lot, that were based on data that told us what the most important plays were, that were based on a system that we could all get very comfortable around, which was a focus on the first view. It didn't mean there weren't debates and other points of view, but these were the consensus ones we came to. We know how tough replay is to get 24 for a league that from 1992 to 98 did not have replay. And the reason we didn't is we couldn't get 24 votes even on 1 year proposal. So replay is difficult. We welcome the discussion. We know there will be one, in Arizona. And the interesting thing will be is can we come together around 24 votes to expand? But we feel like this is a good way to expand it. We have data that shows these are the most impactful plays and the ones that we can change. But we'll be interested to hear where the membership is.
Also, I would add, the committee discussed and then discussing this also with the officials were most important that have to live this out real time was trying to keep working to keep a system in place that from a mechanic administration on game day, the flow, this is something that the officials also thought by just expanding what's in the current replay process, what's reviewable was the best introduction. If we were to move forward, this was one of the best start for possible solutions on addressing some of the issues.
Hi, Roger Goodrose from Double Coverage again. Relating to Proposal 16 about ejections for non-football and football acts, if the drive is for player safety, then why wouldn't you be able to have an ejection called where a flag wasn't thrown on the field?
We're again, in this case, I can answer that. So we've done it before, and I think everybody, coaches alike, have said this is one that should come from the field. And in this one, what we're doing is we're actually saying that we want a collaboration between New York and the official. On the ejection, last year we had 4 plays in which there were ejections, and we agreed with all 4. They were called on the field. We looked at a lot of plays and really only found probably between 2 and 4 more that we thought actually could have been. So don't look at this as a big change, but look at this as another way to have the referee, if he's got any issues, he can ask New York, I've got a flag on the field. We think there could be an ejection here. What do you think? He can ask for that consultation. Okay. Taylor here again from the BTS 365 podcast. So I heard someone mention earlier about one of Denver's proposals, and 6A it has them proposing to the alternative to the onside kick with the trailing team, so they can have a chance to possess the ball. Is that the first proposal of its kind?
I think it is. I know we've discussed the rule before. I know that we discussed it at the competition committee before. I don't ever, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't ever remember it being put into a full vote voted on by the membership. This is the first, Rich. Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Rich and Troy?
Yeah, hi.
This is Rick Mace. This is Rick Mace of the Washington Post. I got a general question for Troy. We're seeing new wrinkles in some of these new leagues. I'm just wondering what you make of some of the wrinkles, and if you think that means or tells us anything about how right the game is for more progressive changes.
I think it's good. I think it's a good opportunity for football, just the football ecosystem. I like the different variances of at least what we've seen with the AAF, and we know there's others. The XFL is coming, but we think it's just good for football. Personally, I think it's good for football from the development of people, technology. I think the fans have a different appreciation for the different levels, but it also shows the appetite of football fandom.
Thank you.
Roger Goodgross and Double Coverage. We spoke at last year's conference call about the catch rule and the unintended consequences of the change. Was any analysis done on the plays that were ruled complete that previously wouldn't have been? What was their result? And are discussions on the catch rule now put to bed?
Well, the discussions of the catch rule. The answer is yes, we did. We looked at a lot of plays. Feel like it's in a pretty good place. There's no question that the line moved. As far as what it is, a little more definitive. That's been both, what's interesting is how few coaches' questions to the officiating department we received here on catch no catch. That's one of the highest coaches' questions. I think what's happened is we all have a pretty clear picture of what it is and what it isn't. So I think that for now, we're in a pretty good place with that move.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Thanks, Troy. Appreciate your time and look forward to seeing all of you in Phoenix.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So that's it, folks. That was the conference call, and the highlight of it was, well, there were a number of proposals. The link is here, and submissions, many of them having to do with the use of instant replay to evaluate a play. And as you heard, we've had not much discussion regarding the catch this year. And while right now that would seem to be a settled issue, let's see what happens at the league meeting. But a lot of these rules have to do with none of these rules, as I look at them preliminarily, okay, because I have to admit, this is my first cut at this, are not seemingly at first glance earth-changing, earth-shattering, all right? There isn't anything like, for example, what is a catch, right? That's not here. Now, what a lot of these rules are really adjustments to existing rules, like, for example, amend Article 28, Section 18.1 of the Constitution and bylaws to reflect the following new language, underlined, deleted language struck through. And so you have to go down through the existing language and see that they want taken out. Termination player contracts, remove this by a club that is still participating in the playoffs. And this is another, so now it would read, if this passed, termination of player contracts will occur at the expiration of the claiming period. And that then, one, a club that is participating in the playoffs may sign players whose contracts have been terminated to the club's active inactive list, practice squad or reserve squad. That remains, okay? And a club that is not participating in the playoffs may sign players who have been terminated to its reserved future list only. But what's taken out are termination of player contracts from non-playoff clubs will be deferred until the first business day after the Pro Bowl. That's out. A club that is, so in other words, the reverse is in. That is a player contract. It doesn't matter anymore. Okay, or a club that is still participating in playoffs may sign players whose contracts have been terminated to the club's active and inactive list, practice squad. All right, they took that out. Okay, so basically it's simplified. It's basically saying, hey, you're in the playoffs. You can sign players whose contracts have been terminated to the club's active and inactive list. If you're not in the playoffs, you can sign players who've been terminated to your reserve full list only. Okay, and it says all waiver notices released by the commissioner during this training or regular season shall be sent to by NFL Net or facsimile. That's existing language. Now, the effect of this rule is it permits players whose contracts are terminated by the waiver system during the postseason to be signed by clubs in the postseason. So think about this, okay? It's pretty cool. If you are a GM and you covet a player that another team had and is jettisoned after as the postseason has started, you say, let's take a hypothetical. Let's say that for whatever reason, Jadeveon Clowney does something and or something happens to him, and for the freak, the GM decides they're going to cut him. I can't fathom that, but let's say that it happens. Let's say that the Texans are not in the playoffs, and let's say the Raiders are, right? The Raiders could sign Jadeveon Clowney, right? That's a pretty cool rule. I'm going to repeat that. It permits players whose contracts are terminated, all right? It permits players whose contracts are terminated via the waiver system during the postseason to be signed by clubs that are in the postseason. It permits a non-playoff club to sign a player to its future list immediately. All right. Non-playoff clubs are no longer required to wait until after the Pro Bowl, wait until after the Super Bowl to sign such players. You can sign them like right then. Okay. So again, it permits players whose contracts are terminated via the waiver system during the postseason to be signed by clubs that are in the postseason. That's pretty cool. That's cool. So you could sign that. You could just stock up for the playoffs. Think about that. It provides teams more effective access to players during the postseason. So you could have this. You could have a team. I mean, think about how incredible that rule is. I'm going to focus on that more in a vlog. But think about how incredible this rule is. You could walk into the playoffs. Maybe you limp into the playoffs with a 9-7 record, right? And you're in the wild card, all right? Because it doesn't restrict the wild card. You look around at your personnel weaknesses, you check the waiver wire, and you can fill in your holes and create a Super Bowl level ready team specifically for the playoffs. I mean, that's what it reads here. That's the idea. I think that's a cool one. I think this is a cool rule. I'm anxious to see where this goes. I like the idea. I'm anxious to see where this goes. This is a cool rule. So I'm going to sit down and review the rest of these. But that's the program as it stands right now. Thank you for tuning in. And the first part of the broadcast I could not play for you via speaker because it concerns procedural information that's media only and is specific to people who are going to be at the NFL annual meeting in Phoenix, like myself. So that part I left out and try to avoid the kind of echo situation you might have heard by one other caller when they had, I don't know what they had going on in the background, but you could hear it. I didn't want all that to happen either. So anyway, that's it. And I'll be back later with more news. Here at Zenny62. Please, if you haven't had a chance before, subscribe. And if you take a look at the link, which is in the field here, regarding these rules proposals, and you have something that you think is really important, send me an email or write a comment in the comment section below the video here, and I'll focus on that. All right. Hey, thanks a lot, everybody, and happy Friday to you. Thanks for tuning in.